Most people live their lives chasing a finish line they may never reach. They set big, shiny goals. They write them in their journals. They visualize the moment of victory. But weeks later, the excitement fades, and so does their momentum. They think the problem is motivation. But the real problem is the system, or rather, the lack of one. Stoicism reminds us that life is not about chasing a distant, uncertain outcome, but about shaping each day in a way that aligns with our values and builds our strength over time. In this episode, we're not going to talk about setting more goals. We're going to talk about creating systems that make progress inevitable, because when you live by a system, you don't need to wait for the future to be proud of yourself. You become proud in the process. Most people treat goals like magic spells. They believe that if they just write them down, say them enough times, or think about them hard enough, the universe will bend to make them real. And while there's value in knowing what you want, a goal on its own is nothing more than a wish dressed up in words. A system, on the other hand, is the architecture that makes that wish inevitable. It's the day-to-day structure, the repeatable actions, the habits you engage in whether you feel inspired or not. If a goal is the summit of a mountain, the system is the act of putting one foot in front of the other every single day, rain or shine, tired or motivated, ready or not. Stoicism, with its focus on the controllable, teaches us that the future is not ours to command. You can't guarantee that your goal will happen. Life is too unpredictable for that. But you can control your process. You can decide what you do each morning, what you feed your mind, how you respond to setbacks. The Stoics would say, anchor yourself in the present moment, because this is where action lives. A goal keeps your eyes fixed on the horizon. A system keeps your feet moving on the path. Think about someone who says, I want to write a book. That's a goal. Inspiring, perhaps, but vague and fragile. If instead they commit to writing 500 words every day at 7 a.m., that's a system. One approach depends on bursts of inspiration. The other builds momentum without asking permission from mood or motivation. The first can be derailed by a bad week. The second survives because it's simply what you do, like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. The danger with goals is that they focus too much on the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You wake up each day reminded that you haven't arrived yet. That gap can weigh you down, filling you with a constant sense of incompleteness. A system shifts your focus to what's within your reach today. You stop obsessing over the distance and start focusing on the next step. You build a life you can be proud of now, not just when some distant milestone is reached. In Stoic terms, a goal is tied to externals, outcomes you can't fully control. A system is tied to internals, your choices, your actions, your mindset. Epictetus would remind us that the measure of a person is not in what they hope to get, but in what they choose to do every day, regardless of reward. Systems free you from the tyranny of the finish line. You don't live for the moment you arrive. You live in a way that makes every moment part of your arrival. And here's the subtle truth. Systems often outperform goals, not because they ignore results, but because they produce results as a side effect. You don't have to chase the reward starts chasing you. When you run a system well enough, the goal becomes inevitable, but by then, you've already grown into the person you wanted to be. So ask yourself, are you chasing a picture in your head, or are you building the daily practices that make that picture real? Because one will keep you waiting, and the other will keep you moving. And movement, not hope, is what changes your life. If you've ever set a goal and failed to reach it, you know the sting it leaves behind. The problem isn't always that you lack discipline or that the goal was impossible. More often, the problem is that goals are fragile by nature. They depend on a perfect alignment of motivation, circumstances, and timing, things that life rarely hands you on a silver platter. Systems, on the other hand, are built to survive reality. They don't care if today is perfect. They care that you show up. A goal is like betting on the weather. You make plans for a sunny day and hope the rain stays away. A system is like learning to thrive no matter the forecast. When you have a system, the weather becomes irrelevant. You have a plan for clear skies and a plan for storms. That's why systems are more reliable. They're designed to operate in the real world, where conditions change, moods fluctuate, and obstacles appear without warning. The Stoics understood this long before productivity books made it popular. They taught that true stability comes from anchoring yourself to what you can control. A goal says, "I will be happy when I achieve X." A system says, "I will live with purpose and discipline today, regardless of outcome." One ties your fulfillment to the future, the other roots it in the present, where you actually have influence. This makes systems not just a tool for success, but a safeguard for your mental well-being. Think about it. A person chasing a goal might wake up every morning with pressure hanging over their head. "I'm still not there yet." That gap between reality and ambition becomes a constant source of tension. But someone committed to a system wakes up with clarity. They already know what today demands. They measure success by their actions, not by a distant scoreboard. And because action is always in their control, they're able to build momentum even on bad days. Another reason systems outperform goals is resilience. Life has a way of throwing curveballs: illness, job changes, family crises. If all you have is a rigid goal, these events can knock you off track completely. But a system can bend without breaking. You can scale it up when life is generous with time and energy, or scale it down when life gets hard. Either way, the process continues. You're still moving forward. There's also the hidden emotional advantage of systems. They replace the all-or-nothing mindset with a sense of ongoing progress. With goals, it's binary. You either hit the target or you fail. With systems, every day you show up is a win. Even partial effort keeps you in the game. This steady accumulation of small wins does something powerful. It rewires your self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's trying, and you start seeing yourself as someone who simply does. In a way, systems free you from the obsession with results while ironically delivering better results. They protect you from burnout because you're not constantly sprinting toward an arbitrary finish line. You're walking a path you've designed to be sustainable, and when the path itself is fulfilling, you no longer need to rush to the end. The truth is, anyone can set a goal. That's easy. The hard and worthwhile part is building a life where success is baked into your daily behavior. Systems give you that. They make progress inevitable, not because they're flashy or dramatic, but because they quietly turn discipline into a habit, and habit into identity. So, if you want reliability, stop relying on bursts of willpower or perfect timing. Build a system that works for you, one that you can keep running whether you feel unstoppable or completely drained. Because when the system runs, you move forward, and forward is the only direction that matters. Designing a system isn't about copying someone else's morning routine or forcing yourself into a structure that looks impressive on paper but feels impossible to maintain. It's about creating a process that works with your life, your energy, and your values, not against them. This is where most people go wrong. They build systems that are aspirational instead of practical. They design for the person they hope to be one day, instead of the person they are now. But the most effective system meets you where you are and then gradually elevates you. Start by looking at your current rhythms. How do your mornings actually unfold? Where does your energy peak during the day? Which activities feel like a constant uphill battle and which feel effortless? The Stoics believed in self-examination as a tool for mastery, not judgment. They would tell you to observe yourself like a student, not a critic. Because when you understand your patterns, you can design a system that doesn't demand you fight your own nature at every turn. For example, if you know your mind is sharpest in the first 2 hours after waking, that's when your system should schedule the work that matters most, not scrolling through your phone or answering low-priority emails. If your energy dips mid-afternoon, your system might include a walk, a workout, or even a short rest to reset. The point is not to force productivity into every minute, but to build a flow that makes your best effort feel natural. A system also respects your limitations. Ambition without realism is just self-sabotage. If you've never run before, deciding you'll run 5 miles every morning is setting yourself up to quit. But walking for 15 minutes every day? That's a system you can build on. Once it's part of your life, you can extend it, enhance it, and grow it into something remarkable. Small, consistent actions, tailored to your reality, are far more powerful than grand gestures you can't sustain. Another key is alignment with your values. If your system pushes you toward achievements that don't actually matter to you, it will eventually collapse. So ask yourself, does this process move me closer to the life I truly want, or am I just chasing approval? The Stoics warned against living according to the crowd's expectations. Your system should serve your inner compass, not the world's applause. Designing a system that fits your life also means leaving room for adaptation. Life is not static, and your system shouldn't be either. If your circumstances shift, a new job, a move, a change in family responsibilities, your system can evolve with you. Build it with enough flexibility that it feels like a reliable companion, not a rigid cage. Finally, the best systems are friction-proofed. That means reducing the barriers between you and the action. If you want to read more, keep a book where you drink your morning coffee. If you want to work out, lay your clothes out the night before. If you want to write, open your document before bed so it's ready when you wake. Your system should make doing the right thing easier than avoiding it. When a system truly fits your life, it becomes invisible. You don't have to force it because it's woven into your days. You don't dread it because it doesn't require constant negotiation. And you don't abandon it because it feels like part of who you are. That's when you know you've done it right. When the system doesn't just work for you, it becomes you. There's a dangerous trap in self-improvement, measuring your worth by whether you've reached the finish line. When you obsess over the result, you live in a constant state of not enough. Every day you're either winning or failing, and there's no space for the slow, quiet work that actually leads to lasting change. The Stoics would tell you that the only thing within your control is the effort, not the outcome. And yet most of us live like the outcome is everything. Tracking progress is important, but it must be done in a way that supports you, not sabotages you. Think of it as navigation. A ship's captain doesn't stare at the destination on a map every second. He watches the compass, the sails, the winds, adjusting course as he goes. Your system is that compass. The question is not, am I there yet? But am I steering in the right direction? This means redefining success as consistency rather than completion. If your system is to write for 30 minutes a day, success is showing up and doing it. even if some days the words flow and others they stumble. If your system is to eat nourishing meals, success is choosing a better option than you would have yesterday, even if it's not perfect. Over time, these daily wins stack up into transformation. The danger of obsessing over results is that it creates emotional whiplash. You feel incredible when you're ahead and crushed when you fall behind. That constant roller coaster drains your motivation. But when you focus on process, you stay steady. You understand that one bad day is just a moment, not a verdict. You keep moving because the system tells you what to do next, regardless of yesterday's performance. There's also the problem of outcome blindness. Sometimes we're so fixated on one specific goal that we miss the unexpected benefits happening along the way. You might set out to run to lose weight, but discover that the real gift is stress relief and mental clarity. If you only measured pounds, you'd miss the transformation of your mood and resilience. By focusing on the system, you leave space to notice the gains you didn't anticipate. Practical tracking can be simple and low pressure. A check mark on a calendar, a quick note in a journal, a tally of how many days in a row you've kept your promise to yourself. These small signals keep you aware of your effort without turning it into a constant judgment. They remind you that progress is happening, even on days when it doesn't feel visible. And here's the truth: the results will come, slowly, quietly, often without fanfare. You'll look back months later and realize you're living differently, not because you obsessed over a finish line, but because you kept showing up for the work. That's the power of tracking the journey instead of chasing the scoreboard. When you measure success by commitment, not perfection, you release yourself from the cycle of self-punishment. You stop living for a future moment when you'll finally arrive and start living inside the process that's shaping you every day. And when you do that, the finish line stops being the point, because you've already won in the way you live. We tend to overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. That's the paradox of ambition. The mind craves dramatic leaps, grand achievements, instant transformation, but life rewards the ones who can master the quiet, almost invisible actions repeated over time. This is the heartbeat of Stoicism, not the grand gesture, but the daily discipline. Marcus Aurelius didn't become the man he was through a single act of courage, but through years of living his principles in the smallest moments. Small actions are deceptively powerful because they compound. Think of water dripping onto stone. One drop means nothing. 1,000 drops barely leave a mark. But over years, that water carves canyons. Your habits are the same. Reading a few pages every morning may seem trivial today, but it changes the books you finish, the ideas you encounter, the decisions you make, the person you become. Skipping the sugary drink today seems meaningless, until you realize 100 such decisions shift your health, your energy, your confidence. The beauty of small actions is that they bypass the resistance that comes with giant goals. If you set out to run 10 miles on day one, you'll talk yourself out of it. But if you commit to putting on your running shoes and stepping outside, you'll start. And often, starting is all you need. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what's within our control, and a small action is always within reach. You can't control the mountain, but you can take the step in front of you. There's also a humility in small, consistent actions. They teach you patience. In a world addicted to instant gratification, you become someone who understands that greatness is built in the shadows, in the unglamorous repetitions no one applauds. It's washing the dishes tonight so your mind is clear tomorrow morning. It's showing kindness in a moment when you could have been indifferent. These small acts seem ordinary, but they stack into extraordinary results. The Stoics knew that a man's character is revealed in his daily conduct, not his rare moments of heroism. Epictetus said, "Small-minded people blame others. Average people blame themselves. The wise see all as part of the game." Applying that wisdom means recognizing that your life is not built in bursts, but in the quiet endurance of doing what matters over and over. When you commit to small, consistent actions, you free yourself from the tyranny of motivation. You don't need to feel inspired to take a single step, you just take it. And each step makes the next one easier. Before you know it, your system becomes self-sustaining. You start to see progress, not because you chased it, but because you built it brick by brick. So, stop waiting for the perfect moment to do something big. Do something small, today, right now, and do it again tomorrow. That's how mountains are moved. That's how lives are rebuilt. And when you live this way, you'll realize you're not just chasing change. You've already become the kind of person who creates it, naturally, daily, without force. No system, no matter how well designed, is meant to be followed blindly forever. Life is fluid. Seasons change. Circumstances shift. What worked for you last year may no longer serve you today. The danger isn't in having a flawed system. It's in becoming so rigid that you can't see when it needs to evolve. Stoicism teaches us to accept the inevitability of change and to remain flexible without losing our principles. The best systems are living systems. They breathe, adapt, and grow with you. Think of a tree. Its roots hold firm, but its branches bend with the wind. Your principles are the roots, unchanging, grounding you in who you are and what you stand for. But your methods, your routines, your habits, those are the branches. They must move with the storms, or they'll snap under pressure. Many people fail not because they never had a plan, but because they cling to an outdated one. They run the same workout despite injury. They stick to a career path long after it's drained them. They follow a morning routine that once energized them, but now feels like a chore. A wise person notices these signs early, without judgment. The Stoic approach is not to see this as failure, but as feedback, a chance to refine. Improvement doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it means removing what no longer fits. You might realize a habit you thought was essential is now slowing you down, or that your schedule is too crowded for the deep focus you need. Growth often comes from subtraction, not addition. Seneca reminded us that he who is everywhere is nowhere. The same applies to your efforts. Spread them too thin, and your system collapses. Adjusting a system also requires self-honesty. It's easy to tell yourself a process is broken, when in truth, you've simply stopped committing to it. Before you change, ask, is it the system that failed, or my discipline in following it? Sometimes the answer is uncomfortable, but discomfort is where the truth hides. When you approach your system as a living thing, you see every setback as data. If your progress slows, that's not a reason to quit. It's a signal to investigate. Maybe you need to simplify, maybe you need to increase intensity, or maybe you just need to remove distractions. Over time, this mindset trains you to see life not as a rigid blueprint, but as an ongoing experiment. The Stoics would tell you to focus on what is essential in every moment, and what is essential will shift. What matters is that you stay awake to those shifts, willing to evolve without losing your core. In this way, your system becomes not just a tool for success, but a mirror of your growth. It reflects who you are becoming, one thoughtful adjustment at a time. So, don't fear change in your process. Fear becoming so inflexible that you can't adapt when life demands it. Systems are not prisons, they are pathways. And the best paths are the ones you can walk for a lifetime, adjusting with every turn, yet always moving forward. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you believe yourself to be. And every day you follow your system, you cast another vote. This is why systems are far more than productivity tools. They are identity-shaping machines. Goals can change overnight, but the way you live day after day defines who you truly are. When you commit to a system, you stop thinking of yourself as someone trying to become something. You begin to see yourself as someone who already is. You're not trying to be disciplined. You simply wake up and follow the habits that a disciplined person follows. You're not trying to get healthy. You live in a way that a healthy person lives. The subtle but powerful shift here is that your actions are no longer about chasing a future version of yourself. They are about embodying that version right now. This is where Stoicism merges perfectly with systems thinking. The Stoics didn't concern themselves with grand declarations of what they would do one day. They focused on the present moment, on the choices and disciplines within their control right now. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That's not a call to daydream. It's a call to live as if you already are that person, today, in this moment. Your system is the bridge between intention and identity. Every morning you follow your routine. Every evening you reflect on your actions. You reinforce the story you are telling yourself. And identity, once solidified through repetition, becomes self-sustaining. You no longer need to push yourself as hard. The system runs because it has become who you are. This is also why breaking your system feels unsettling. When you miss a habit or neglect your process, it's not just about losing progress. It feels like you've stepped out of alignment with yourself. That discomfort isn't a sign to quit. It's a reminder of the standard you've set for yourself. In a way, your system becomes a moral compass. It tells you, without anyone else's opinion, whether you are living up to your own values. But there's a warning here. Systems shape your identity whether you're aware of it or not. If your days are ruled by distraction, avoidance, or inconsistency, those too will harden into an identity. You may begin to see yourself as someone who just can't focus or isn't disciplined, not because it's true, but because your repeated actions have convinced you of it. This is why building a conscious system matters so much. If you don't choose it, your environment and impulses will choose for you. The beauty is, you can rewrite your identity at any moment by changing your systems. You don't have to wait for the perfect time. The day you begin to act differently is the day you start to become someone new. And unlike goals, which are vulnerable to failure the moment you miss a milestone, a system gives you endless opportunities to try again. Every morning, every choice, every breath. In the end, you are not the goals you've set or the dreams you've had. You are the sum of your repeated actions. And when those actions are guided by a system you've deliberately built, you don't just create results. You create yourself. When you step back and look at it, every point we've explored leads to one undeniable truth. Life isn't transformed by hitting a single target. It's shaped by what you choose to do every day. Goals can inspire you, but they're fragile. They can be delayed, derailed, or even abandoned when life throws something unexpected in your path. Systems, however, are resilient. They don't depend on perfect conditions. They don't break the moment you face an obstacle. They're built to adapt, to evolve, and to carry you forward regardless of circumstance. This is the wisdom the Stoics understood so well, that the good life isn't built in grand, rare achievements, but in the quiet repetition of disciplined action. Marcus Aurelius didn't need to write, "One day I'll be a virtuous man." Instead, he practiced virtue daily, in the small decisions, in the way he greeted challenges, in the way he treated those around him. Your life will follow the same law. Your identity and your destiny are forged in the routines you keep, not in the ambitions you announce. The real power of a system is that it turns discipline into identity. It shifts your focus from chasing an outcome to becoming the kind of person who naturally produces that outcome. And that's the difference between temporary success and lasting transformation, between a moment of victory and a lifetime of mastery. So as you move forward from here, don't just write down what you want. Build the process that makes it inevitable. Let every day be another brick in the foundation of who you're becoming. And remember, it's not the finish line that defines you. It's the way you run the race, one deliberate step at a time. If you choose your system with intention and protect it with discipline, you will no longer wonder if you'll get there. You'll know, because the person you're becoming is already living the life you once only dreamed of.